We'd like to begin, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I really appreciate the team that is here today to make this presentation and to update us. Of course, all of us have been very focused on this very important event that is going to take place shortly, the Census 2020, and the particular impact and importance that this has in our county. Even, I think, this morning, it is evident as we have discussed different bills and if we have discussed different issues that we know that in Montgomery County we have a lot of communities that traditionally are undercounted. And that has very, very serious impact in how we do our work, because it means that we're missing out on really important resources. And also, it means that we are missing out on important issues like representation. There have been a lot of different meetings, discussions. The Council of Governments have had discussions about this on a regional basis. I serve on the board of directors, and it was really, really impressed with what the District of Columbia, what Prince George's County, what Northern Virginia has done thus far. And also have participated in different events with Casa de Maryland as they went out to canvass and try to make sure that communities that are usually underrepresented have an opportunity to learn about this. And also very excited about what the efforts thus far have been right here in Montgomery County. And as I said earlier, we just introduced the special appropriation request because we need the resources to get the word out. And it's going to take everybody working together. So I requested this briefing because I think it's really critical that all of us understand where we are, understand what has been done thus far, and also where there may be additional opportunities for everybody to hold hands and get out there and make sure that everybody participates. So with that, I turn it over to Council President.
Go ahead, please begin. Who's going to lead it off? Carolyn, are you leading it off? Please begin.
Hi, everybody. This is Carolyn. I'm a legislative financialist for the Montgomery County Council, and welcome to the Government Census 2020 party. We have lots to cover today, so if we can ask everyone to hold their questions or email afterwards. This is not the only time you'll be meeting the census team. We will have a progress update during budget as well as a GEO session on March 5th to discuss the state and county funding budget, and we will also have a preliminary result progress update in the fall. Just to highlight we have a full force out here today, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out and making the time. I know it was very difficult. We have the U.S. Census Bureau, we have Community Engagement Cluster, every single member, the liaisons and the regional service directors. We have Office of Community Partnerships, our census manager, Sean. We have Montgomery County Public Libraries, Montgomery College, Montgomery County Public Schools, Montgomery Planning, the Maryland Latino Census Coalition, and we have not, we would be remiss not to include the nonprofit partners, the dozens that are helping us through the outreach and the businesses as well. We'll start as soon as we get the presentation going. I can do this. Yeah. Got it. And if we could take 30 seconds at the end of this briefing to just do a group picture in the front with the census team, that would be wonderful. Thanks. Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you. As we begin this, I just wanted to make a note for the agenda change. After this, we're supposed to be interviewing Mike Covio, who is the County Executive Appointee as Director of Department of Finance. We're going to move that to after our public hearings at 1:30, and then we're going to have a proposed closed session. We're going to then we're going to have to move back our committee meetings, which were supposed to start at 2:30. They'll probably be around 3:30, 3:15, 3:30, something like that. Okay, please begin.
Good morning. Good morning, Council President Sidney Katz, Council Vice President Tom Hooker, Complete Count Committee Chair Nancy Navarro, and members of the County Council. Thank you so much for having us here for this very important briefing. I've had individual conversations with you informally, but we are happy to be here today to give you a formal update on our progress and also to talk about our efforts and the census outreach in the county. So we are about to provide you with a lot of information today, but the one takeaway for you and for everyone watching at home is this. The 2020 census is safe, confidential, it's easy, and important. We also want folks to know that everyone counts. So everyone counts in Montgomery County. Everyone in the household counts, whether you have status or not. No matter where you came from, everyone counts, and everyone in your household counts. This is not a partisan issue, although some would like to make this a partisan issue. And so again, the message here is no matter what language you speak, whether or not you have status, what country you come from, or how many people are in your household, every single person in Montgomery County counts. So before we get into our specific efforts, I think it's important to start with a baseline of census information. So at this point, I would like to introduce the Census Bureau's partnership specialist, Asha Dante Kemp, who has been all over the community with us, and we're very grateful for our partnership with the Census Bureau.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say we could not do what we're doing for the Census Bureau without Montgomery County. They have been a huge support. Secondly, I am battling a cold, so hopefully my voice carries out throughout this briefing. The primary thing that we want to let everyone know is that our goal is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. As Diane mentioned, it is very important that regardless of your status that you are counted within the census. This brings funds to the community and also make sure you have the resources that you need. So what's new? We have a lot going on. We're really focused on our initiatives. Some of our primary focuses right now is statistics in schools. We are really trying to get Montgomery County schools and statewide schools involved in the census. Children under 5 are always and historically excuse me, the lowest count. And so we really want to make sure that we are engaging the schools and get the support of the education entities here, whether it is a daycare facility, a special education facility, or just our local schools, colleges, get them all involved. So however you guys can support that effort, we really would appreciate it. Secondly, the other initiative that we are strongly working on is group quarter steal, ensuring that we know how to count the homeless, which I know is important to all of you as well. We want to make sure that we know where the soup kitchens, shelters, homeless that are living on the street, where to locate them so we can count and include them as well. They are important and they need the resources that come from the $675 billion that the 2020 census will, excuse me, distribute over the next 10 years. So we want to ensure that those are the focuses that we have moving forward. But just to give you a little information about the census, so this go around 2020 census, for the first time, people will be able to respond in 3 different ways, which is online, by phone, and paper form, which is the traditional method. Mid-March, they will start receiving invitations, and these invitations will be sent to homes, not individuals, but they will have geocodes which identifies your home location. People can then go online, enter that geocode or their address if they don't have it for some reason, and respond to the census. The initial invitations will begin being sent out on March 16th, so we're estimating that most households should receive it between the 16th and the 20th of March. April 1st, of course, is Census Day. We are hoping that everyone really rallies, gets online, and complete the census on that day, or pick up the phone. We will have the census available in 12 languages. But in case you don't speak one of those 12 languages online, we also will have instruction manuals in 59 languages to help guide you through the process. So we are really trying to be inclusive and make sure no one's left out. excuse me. What we're asking is for partners, is for businesses, organizations, faith-based entities, and local, federal government to get involved, support, and nonprofits, excuse me, to get involved and support and encourage their constituents, their employees, thank you, their employees and also their customers to participate in the census. Great things are going on here in the county. People are doing lockdowns with the job and allowing an hour so that they can complete the census. We're finding different ways of hosting parties and throwing events to assist as well. So just think creatively of how you can support the census. Let us know how we can help, and we will be happy to do so.
Great. Thank you, Asha, for that overview. Again, we really appreciate the Census Bureau's partnership with us and being at almost every single event with us. There are other partnership specialists that we've been working with outside of ASHA. So thank you again for the Census Bureau for your work there. So our office led the work in 2010, and in 2010, our response rate was 80%. We had one of the highest response rates in the region and also nationwide. And so because of that, once again, our office is leading the census outreach efforts this year. So what's at stake for Montgomery County? There is funding. The federal government allocates more than $675 billion in funding every year based on census data. Here in the state of Maryland, it's estimated that Marylanders, for every Marylander that is not counted, we will lose $18,250 for every person that is not counted over 10 years. Now, if the response rate is 80% and the population in Montgomery County is at 1.1 million, you can just do the math on those numbers over 10 years and how important that funding piece is. Also, redistricting. Would not only redistricting of legislative districts, but also school districts. That's been a very big topic in our community, and voting precincts as well. I also want to stress here that not only is it the direct funding resources that is important, it's also the indirect allocation of resources. So as you know, we use census data in almost every facet of our jobs daily, right? We use census data to determine development, affordable housing, senior housing, where we put grocery stores. Grocery stores use census data to determine what type of products they put into their grocery stores. So all of these indirect decisions based on census data also affects our community. So it is critical that we all work together to ensure for a full and accurate count for everyone in Montgomery County. As I mentioned earlier, the federal government allocates $675 billion nationally, and for the state, the impact of that is $16 billion that's allocated in the state of Maryland on a federal, annual basis using census data. So again, the resources are very important. So how are things different this year? So Asha touched on this, but this is the first census that is primarily going to be done online. So the Census Bureau is moving a lot of their resources and operations to push the online response format. Now, what that means to our community is that there is less resources that are invested by the Census Bureau on outreach. And so they're really relying on local jurisdictions and local complete count committees to do that outreach work. Additionally, you all know this, there is a very different political climate this year. So the federal administration's attempt to include the citizenship question, let me be clear, the citizenship question is not going to be included on the census for everyone watching and listening at home. But the damage from that to our communities is everlasting. And additionally, the federal government is using other tactics to scare communities in order to not respond and provide their information to the federal government. And so again, it is because of these reasons that for the first time ever, jurisdictions locally and nationally are allocating significant resources for census outreach because they understand what the financial and political impact is to their communities. So they're really investing heavily on the front end to make sure that they have full and accurate counts in each jurisdiction. So the state of California allocated $100 million, New York, $60 million, DC allocated $1.1 million, and the state of Maryland allocated $5 million. Again, this is the first time jurisdictions have allocated dollars for census education and outreach. So I mentioned earlier, the state of Maryland allocated $5 million. They awarded funding through a grants process at the beginning of last year. We applied for and were granted the largest grant in the entire state of Maryland. We were granted $581,700. This also required a one-to-one match of either cash resources or in-kind resources of jurisdictions and nonprofit organizations who applied for these dollars. So for us, we put up $50,000 in cash and the rest through in-kind resources. So in-kind meaning staff time, office space, and other in-kind sources as well. So what we're doing with these funds is we're creating a census fund that's housed at the Community Foundation. This was based off of a model that we saw in New York, and we thought that this was a very good practice and a good model reflecting partnerships between local philanthropy and government that would allow us to leverage additional dollars and also coordinate a county-wide initiative. This funds also allows us to hire a full-time census manager who is sitting next to me today, whom you all have seen in your districts on census outreach, and we'll be talking in a little while. It also allows us to provide funding to several key nonprofit organizations to help us get into these undercounted communities. It also provides for marketing dollars, particularly to the Spanish-speaking community. And it also allows us to hire some contractors for outreach specifically to the Middle Eastern and LGBTQ communities because that was a gap in our liaison's office. So going on to the timeline, the important thing here is for us to understand that households are going to start to receive invitations from the Census Bureau to respond to the census that has a geocode attached to their household on it, starting on March the 12th. So we need to get ready to respond to residents and questions by March the 12th, okay? So we're really spending a lot of our investment on education and outreach going up to that date. After March 12th, households should continue to receive invitations over the period of 2 weeks. And what our communication to folks during this time is, A, keep an eye out for the invitation. Once you receive it, please respond to the census by Census Day. Census Day is April the 1st. What we're saying to folks is if once you receive the invitation, if you respond to the census either online, by phone, or by questionnaire, you fill out the questionnaire and complete the answers completely, and you do it by April the 1st, you will not require follow-up from the Census Bureau. So the April 1st date is very important for a lot of our communities who are concerned about the follow-up from the Census Bureau. After that, it's important to understand that the Census Bureau will continue to follow up with folks by postcards. And then the enumeration, the door knocking starts in May. So really, a lot of our outreach is happening between now and the end of May. Okay, so now let's talk about hard to count populations, because this is a term that has been a lot of communities are focusing on this term, and this is a Census Bureau focus too. So first, let's just talk about the term. So I don't typically like to use the term hard to count populations. This is a term defined by the Census Bureau that talks about geographic areas and specific communities that they determine to be hard to count. However, as a community organizer, the term I like to use is undercounted communities, because hard to count means that it is my fault that I'm hard to count, but it's not necessarily my fault. You just haven't figured out how to properly count me. So the term I'm going to use when it refers to communities is undercounted, and when we talk about census tracts, I'll use the term hard to count, okay? So like I said, there's two focuses here. One is geographic areas based by census tracts, and Sean's going to talk about that in a second. And second is specific communities. What's important here about the geographic areas and also the communities is that this really drives our overall strategy for outreach and education. So first, let's talk about the undercounted communities. Okay, so for undercounted communities, children under the age of 5 is #1 on the list, and this has been true of almost every census, right? So we are working through early childhood education healthcare providers, and we have a strategy in place for that. For immigrants and the foreign-born community, you know, for Montgomery County, 1 in 3 of our residents are foreign-born. 43% come from a migration background, meaning one or both parents came from a different country of origin. So we have to invest significantly on the outreach to the immigrant and foreign-born community. Limited English proficient individuals. Now, while the average LEP rate in Montgomery County is 15%, it's very high in specific communities. So in the Vietnamese community, it's 62%. In the Spanish-speaking community, it's at 52%. In the Chinese community, it's 54%. So we really have to invest significantly in these communities to ensure for a full and accurate account of these folks. Linguistically isolated individuals, racial and ethnic minorities. This year, this is something we really need to focus on. Households with no computer or inadequate internet access. Now, what does that mean? So one, seniors. Typically, seniors have not been undercounted communities, but we are expecting seniors to be undercounted this time around because of the digital and technology divide. So we're investing heavily in our partnerships and outreach to the senior community. Also for rural areas as well who don't have proper internet access. Again, a lot of on-the-ground outreach to these communities. LGBTQ persons, renters. In the county, 40% of households are renters, right? So again, putting a strategy in place to outreach heavily to the renters, and Sean's gonna talk about that in a second. Homelessness and low-income folks. So again, this is important to keep in mind because we are thinking about all of these things when we are implementing a county-wide strategy. So let's now talk about the geographic census tracts. And I'm going to turn it over to our fearless census leader, Sean Ellis.
Sorry, I'm a rookie. Thank you, Diane. So let's have a conversation about our approach in the development of our outreach strategy. And since we're taking a regional and geographic approach to the development of these strategies, it was important for us to have understanding what was predicted to be the outcome in 2020. So we have an idea what the top 10 communities or regions in the county will be to have the lowest response rate. It's important for us to understand that because that's how we develop our strategy. And that's from a total number perspective. Now, if we look specifically at the census tract, and census tracts effectively are just districts, geographic regions used for the purposes of doing the census and collecting the data. Right? So what we know is that each census tract can hold up to 2,500 residents. I'm sorry, between 2,500 and 8,000 residents. So it's important to understand what a census tract is made up of, right? So if we look at, for example, a census tract like Long Branch, and fortunately, I'm familiar with Long Branch because I was a lifeguard at that pool in high school, so I spent a lot of time in that community.
Not too long ago.
Too long ago. So if we look at Long Branch and who lives and resides in Long Branch, it gives us an idea of what we need to do. And it should shape and has shaped the development of our strategy, not just our strategy, but also our messaging, right? So, for example, there are 5,738 residents living in Long Branch. And for those of you who are not familiar with Long Branch, it's effectively that neighborhood that runs up Piney Branch Road from Flower Avenue across University and effectively ends at New Hampshire Avenue. So that should give you an idea of what community we're looking at. 58.8% of that community is foreign-born. 30% self-identify as being LEP, having limited English proficiency. And 65% of that community self-identify as being Hispanic. So what does that mean? It means for us, when we were doing outreach strategy, we were doing outreach events in the fall and in the winter, it was necessary that we had Spanish-speaking volunteers help us with that outreach. There was no point in me being at a table hosting information or providing information to residents if I couldn't communicate effectively what the messaging was. So we were thankful to have volunteers from the Gilchrist Center to help us with our outreach every Wednesday from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock for about 7 weeks, do that outreach to that community. Secondly, if you look at that census tract, 65% of that community is renting. That's very, very significant. What that means for us is we have to partner with our nonprofit community or organizations that have existing relationships in that community to do the messaging for us. They serve as our trusted voices to those renters about the importance of the census and why it should matter to them, right? So for example, if you're familiar with the Long Branch community, CASA has done the door-to-door knocking in that community. They have been in the Flower Avenue apartments. They were at Fox Hall Apartments and Flower Bands Apartments, and they also spent time in Northwest Park. And if you're familiar with Northwest Park or that stretch along Piney Branch, you know those are the communities that matter most or are kind of significant in that community. Lastly, you've heard Diane talk about the census and how this time it's going to be different in that it will be online for the first time. So that means that we have to give some thought to who that affects negatively. So if you look at that Long Branch tract, 15.9% of those residents don't have access to a computer, and that includes a smartphone. And that's amazing to think about in this day and age in Montgomery County. 24% of that community also does not have access to internet. So that means that out of necessity, it has to guide our messaging. So not only are we talking about why it's important and that it should matter to them, we also have to talk to them about how they can go about responding to the census in 2020. So it means we share the option to do it over the phone. We share the option about doing it through the traditional paper mail manner. It also means that we share with them the fact that they will have an opportunity to visit libraries and some of our community centers and a few of our faith community members that will serve as safe spaces where they can complete the census and get some assistance. And that's part of the messaging that we've developed and we continue to develop, and especially pushing in those communities that we understand the makeup of. And then Diana will speak to you a little bit more about some of the other strategies we're doing.
Great, thank you, Sean. Sean really has been on the ground with our liaisons and folks. I mean, sometimes I feel like he's cloned because he's been at almost every event. So we're really appreciative for all of his lead work there. So now the next question is, what is Montgomery County doing to ensure for a full and accurate count of everyone? That's what everybody wants to know, right? So first, let's start with the Complete Count Committee, because Asha mentioned these Complete Count Committees are very important in local jurisdictions to the work. So Montgomery County's Complete Count Committee is comprised of a broad section of representatives from all sectors who are charged with developing and implementing an education, awareness, and outreach campaign. Our CCC was established by a joint proclamation by County Executive Mark Alrich and then Council President Nancy Navarro and our CCC Chair back in February of 2019. And we had the kickoff in the East County region, one of the most predicted underaccounted census tracts. What's important to note here is that our CCC is comprised of 147 folks across all of the 5 subcommittees. That is completely unlike every other jurisdiction whose average CCC membership is between 15 and 25. The reason why we use so many folks here is because this really is going to call for an all-hands-on-deck type of approach. And the more people that we have as trusted messengers and to help us guide our work, the better. So out of the larger CCC, we've split the larger committee into 5 regional subcommittees that are chaired by the RSC directors and co-chaired by one of the OCP community liaisons who are here today. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So let's talk about our strategies. So no matter where we are in the county, no matter which community we are working in, these are the core principles of our strategies. So this is important to understand. So again, our focus is truly on hard-to-count census tracts and undercounted communities, but this is our overarching strategy. So one is the key messaging. Again, the census is safe and confidential, it's easy, and it is important. So no matter where you are, whether you're hearing the message from our partners or media or directly from us, that is the message that we're driving home. Our second strategy is to rely heavily on our partners. And our partners are a network of trusted messengers, which I'll talk about all of these strategies in detail in a second. Third is the marketing piece. The marketing piece is important because it's going to help us get into specific census tracts and specific communities. Fourth is this regional approach for outreach. 5 is these outreach events, because the wonderful thing about Montgomery County is we always have a million things happening at any given time. So having a presence at all of these outreach events is critical to our campaign. And the 6th thing I want to note here is that underlying message. The underlying message is if you respond to the census by April the 1st completely and using your household code, you will not require follow-up from the Census Bureau. So although our partners on the ground may be different in each of the communities and census tract, although the message may vary a little bit from community to community, the overall strategies here touch on each of these principles, okay? So let's talk about the messaging. So again, the key message is, it is safe and confidential, easy and important. Households, so the concept of households, everyone counts in the household. That is also a critical part of our messaging. We're using very creative and tailored messaging that targets specific communities that are also linguistically and culturally appropriate. So it's important to meet communities where they are. So not only are we communicating in a language that they can understand, in a language that they speak, we are also tailoring the message about what's at stake based on the community that we're going in. So for example, if I'm walking to the senior community may not necessarily care about school allocation, but I know that they're going to care about senior centers and senior programs like Senior Fit, and also representation. I know that message will resonate with seniors, so that's what I talk about when I go into the senior community. When we go into specific immigrant communities, the representation piece may not be so important, but what is important is the allocation of resources of schools, and also to nonprofits that are serving those communities. So again, we tailor our message based on the community that we're going in. And then lastly, the education piece is very important here because a lot of people still don't understand what a census is, have never heard of a census before, what is a census, what the timeline is, and why it's important. So we're really investing a lot on the education piece between now and March the 12th. The other thing that I want to say about messaging here is that we also want to create fun messaging, okay? It is fun to be counted. So we're saying to folks, stand up and be counted. So one of the things that I would love to do is order a bee costume, right? Get it? Be counted. And so our census manager, Sean Ellis, is out in the community wearing a bee costume and resonating with children, right? Like, hey, be counted. Get it? He'll be the buzz of the town. Clearly, I've done this once or twice. So the bee costume, right? A fun thing and memorable thing that people will always remember, right? Also encouraging people to host census parties. So invite over 10 of your friends, 10 of your neighbors, 10 of your family, and have a census party on or before April the 1st, and encourage everyone to respond to the census at the census party over cheese and crackers. It can be non-dairy cheese and gluten-free crackers, but have the census party, okay? So the message is not all doom and gloom. Please respond to the census. It's really important. It is, hey, it's fun to stand up and be counted to your community. Let's talk about the marketing piece. The marketing piece, again, is really important for us to drive home the message that the census is safe, it's confidential, it's easy, and it's important. Our campaign name is Everyone Counts, because everyone in the county counts and everyone in the household counts. We stay away from terms like residents and citizens, because in specific communities, that could mean people who only have status or citizenship, and that is not the message. The message is everyone counts in the community. We have flyers in 7 languages. Again, it's important to communicate in languages that people, in languages that our communities speak. And the flyers are available on our websites, and all of our partners are using these flyers to distribute when they're out. The media piece is very important here. So part of our state grant contains significant media dollars for outreach in the Spanish-speaking community. So Telemundo is one of our partners. We were at their NBC4 and Telemundo Expo. We've been running PSAs in Spanish on Telemundo. We're also using newspapers, Radio America as well. So the media piece is critical here. You should also be seeing WMATA ads, and that came about through a partnership with COG. Let me mention here that the Council of Governments, we've been working with other jurisdictions in the region through their census work group, and so we're sharing best practices with each other, and we're also partnering on regional strategies here, and this is one of those regional strategies. So what we did was all of the jurisdictions, Prince George's County, Arlington, Fairfax, DC, and us, put in a joint request to WMATA to use their free PSA space between January and May. So we're very appreciative of that relationship with COG and the ability for WMATA to run those ads for us for free. You're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks ads on the ride-ons. The ride-ons are very important to a lot of our communities. And so you'll start seeing very huge Everyone Counts in Montgomery County ads on the side that will also help us get into very specific census tracts and communities as well. And then lastly, PSAs. The PSAs are important. So the county executive is going to be recording PSAs. We'll be working with the county council to record PSAs as well, also using community leaders, because it's important for us to put out PSAs from people that communities identify with, that are culturally and linguistically appropriate, so that they can identify with the message that is coming out of the PSAs. So really, for our marketing strategies, we're using a diverse range of strategies here, because people get their information in different ways. Some people get their information through newsletters, others use newspapers, others still use websites. And so it's important for us to cover that entire range so that people are getting the message no matter what type of communication that they use. Let's talk about this regional approach. So I mentioned earlier we have 5 subcommittees that are chaired by the RSC directors and co-chaired by our community liaisons. This is very important because this helps us design and implement census outreach activities that are specific to those regions and ethnic communities. We're really drilling down and taking a granular approach to our education and outreach here. And so between the RSC directors, the subcommittees, and the ethnic liaisons, we're able to look at what the assets are in each community, what the gaps are, and how we can reach folks in those communities. Our next strategy is the outreach events. So although we started our census events back in February 2019 when the CCC was launched, we really ramped up our campaign in the month of September. So September was perfectly timed for us because September really highlights how multifaceted our county and communities truly are. So September is African Heritage Month. So we were at the Ethiopian Day Festival on September the 1st right on the plaza in downtown Silver Spring. We were at the Pan-African Festival. So between those two events, we reached tens of thousands of folks with our census message. It's also the start of Hispanic Heritage Month. So we were in the Salvadoran Festival at the City of Gaithersburg Fairgrounds, and we reached tens of thousands of folks that day. It is also Welcoming Week during September, and Citizenship Day was September 17th. So the Gilchrist Center really took a lead on those two things and provided outreach to their residents. Future Fest, which was also in the Silver Spring Plaza, that many of you were there that day. Actually, this picture in the bottom corner, first of all, you all know that I hate pictures, so this is a rare sighting of me. But the important thing to note here is that that is the former mayor of our sister city in Ethiopia who happened to be in town on a sister city visit. And when he came to our census table, he and his team were so excited to see the flyers in Amharic that they took out their smartphones and took pictures of it. So that is me standing with the former mayor and our Amharic flyers. So we reached another 10,000 people that day as well. The Friendship Picnic happened in September, and so our faith liaison provided outreach to the faith community that day. September is also Community Service Month, so that's when we launched our campaign to recruit census ambassadors. And to date, we have trained 124 census ambassadors, not including our Complete Count Committee members, who will be out in the community talking about the importance of the census. So the last strategy here, and it's not last for any other reason except that this is probably one of the most important parts of our strategies. This is really the crux of our campaign. We cannot be successful on our census outreach if it's not for our partners. So partners are trusted messengers, and it is a very comprehensive network of a cross-section of sectors, so government, faith, nonprofit, corporate, community organizations that are working with us to get the word out about the importance of the census. So for nonprofit organizations, I'm not going to go over all of the nonprofit organizations in Montgomery County, but you know that we've been working with that network. The Volunteer Center under our office has a list of 1,100 nonprofits that we're pushing out information to. The faith communities, there will be a full court press at all of the faith communities during Census Awareness Weekend, which is the last weekend in March, which I'll talk about in a little while, but the faith communities are very important to our strategy here. Grocery stores, so ethnic grocery stores and faith communities, I believe, are the most powerful and underutilized outreach tool that we have available to us. So again, during Census Awareness Weekend, full court press, not only at the faith communities, but also at the ethnic grocery stores and grocery stores as well. Corporations and businesses, neighborhood associations, advisory groups, and the BCCs. Our ethnic advisory groups have been all over the census outreach, and so we're grateful for that. And also government agencies. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that the county is doing here. So one, we've asked all of our agencies to designate census captains. Census captains are liaisons between departments and our office to ensure that employees get counted, and then also their clients get counted as well. They are working with us on doing things such as putting signage in the correct places for employees and their clients as well. What we are doing is granting, Asha mentioned this earlier, we're granting an hour of administrative leave to all county employees to take the census. So regionally, we're doing a take a break, take the census event in partnership with all of our other COG jurisdiction members. And so we're encouraging employees to take a break and take the census on or before April the 1st, and departments will be having those events as well. And the census captains are charged with arranging that. So speaking of government agencies, I'd like to take some time to highlight our key partners here. And first, let's start with one of our favorite government agencies. Yeah. So I'm going to turn this over to our fearless director, who you all know very well, Anita, and her wonderful team.
Good morning, I think, or perhaps this afternoon by now, Council President Katz and council members. So Montgomery County Public Libraries have been supporting the county efforts for the Census Complete Count 2020 since the very beginning. We've been participating since the very first meeting date of February 13th, 2019. We have named our census captain long ago, probably one of the first ones, and our representative has attended nearly all of the meetings and the subcommittee meetings, so we're very aware of the role that we're expected to play and the support that we are to give to this effort in the county. We have focused on several different areas, the first of which was job recruitment. Since February 2019, we have hosted 120 90-minute Census 2020 job information sessions spread across the county at various branches. And we have added or increased the sessions in census tracks where more recruitment is needed. These have been advertised throughout the branches with our digital signage and flyers. And also, the census workers could help applicants fill out their job application right on site in the libraries. We are continuing to schedule these employment sessions up to March 8th, at which time that effort will shift into other areas. We right now are working very closely with our branches to provide space for training enumerators. Enumerators need a 9 to 5 and 8-hour session for training on multiple days, and we're working throughout the branches to provide the space where this can occur. Our third focus will be, of course, information for the community. We have scheduled information tables in our branches, and of course, we will be providing census materials in all available languages in the branches, especially focusing on the ones where those communities are likely to come in and avail themselves of our services. We'll have information tables in our branches from February through May in areas of the county where a special emphasis is needed. These would be at Aspen Hill, Gaithersburg, Germantown, Maryland Praisner and Burtonsville, Quince Orchard, Silver Spring, Twin Brook, Wheaton, White Oak. The tables will be in those branches each Tuesday and Saturday from 10 to 4, staffed by census volunteers. We will have a staff member at each of the branch trained as a census captain, and their role will be to be a resource person for the rest of the branch staff in order to make sure that everyone is completely informed of our role in supporting Census 2020 and also able to express to our customers the importance of filling out their census document. We're working with the regional services centers, the volunteer center, in training our volunteers to seat the information tables. And of course, as you know, libraries are always seen as trusted partners. Our reach into the community is extensive with our 20 locations, 21 if you count the Noyes Library, but I don't think we're doing any census outreach there. And we will be probably the main source for public computers where people will be able to come in and fill out their census document. We have 600 public computer terminals across our branches, and we also supplement those with another 200 plus laptops that are available in our branches. We intend to have a direct shortcut to the census website on our desktops, so as soon as someone logs in, they'll be able to hit one shortcut, go right to where they need to. We're considering how we can run a census message as the screensaver on our computers, so when people walk in, they will see that. And we will be providing some repurposed tablets to Diane and her team, so they will be able to use those to take them out into the community to reach people who don't make their way into the libraries. So that's where we are right now with our support of this effort.
Great, thank you so much, Anita. I especially want to thank you not only for designating the census spaces and the uses of the computers, but also for the job recruitment. I mean, I really believe that it's because of the libraries that Montgomery County Census Bureau is at 140% of their target applicants. here in Montgomery County because of all of the work the libraries have done on the job recruitment. So thank you for that. So next is a lady who really needs no introduction. Also one of my favorite directors in the county, because let me just shout out that she's a former OCP liaison, so OCP family forever. So I'm now going to turn this over to Carla at Montgomery College.
Good afternoon. My colleague Nick Shishko was not able to stay, but this is a partnership. We have our own complete count committee at Montgomery College. Student Life and Community Engagement are co-chairing that. I have a few slides. Some of the things that we're doing at Montgomery College, we have 55,000 students, majority immigrant, I think more countries represented than MCPS. So we have fertile ground and a lot of work to do to make sure that our own students and their families are counted. So we have a census website with resources for faculty. We have all of our events, our information is there. The county's translated census are available, the flyers are available there. Next slide. We are also doing open houses at the libraries. We have 3 libraries, one at each campus, and we have designated April 1st in the evening and Saturday, April 4th, 10 to 2, really encouraging our students to come or bring their families to complete the census at the time with our computer labs at the libraries. Also, our welcome centers. We have a welcome center for students on every campus. They will also have the census link or icon on their computers during business hours 8 to 5 for the month of April. Students will be able to come again and complete the census and get help from the Welcome Center staff if needed. MCTV is doing a lot of work for us with promotion. We are doing Facebook Live events starting the first week of March. As you can see there, English, Spanish, Amharic, French, and Vietnamese. And the idea is to have students and staff kind of interviewing each other, so you have different backgrounds, different ages, asking some relevant, frequently asked questions about the census. And that's Facebook Live, but then we can use clips from those recordings to promote the census afterwards. We applied for a community foundation grant, which Diane mentioned, and we did get some funding. So we have 18 census ambassadors who are students, and they are getting some stipend to promote the census. They have started. They're doing the questionnaire that you maybe have seen some other nonprofits do. I know Identity has done it. They're already on campus surveying their peers about how much knowledge they need about the census and if they're going to need help. They're tabling at the different campuses, and they're also starting a social media campaign, which we know is going to be very effective with our young population. Montgomery College, the bread and butter is teaching and students. So our faculty have been offered training, and the resources, lesson plans are available on our website so that they can download something from different fields and integrate it into their syllabus. We are planning census festivals, I guess to capture those that haven't gotten on board by April 1st, so in mid-April. Again, just make some noise, DJs, photo booths, attract attention, so people can, if they haven't heard about it by then, come and complete the census with us at our census festivals. What else did I want to mention? Yeah, no, I think that pretty much sums up what we are doing. Great to be here today and hear some of the other things that partners are doing, because it gives us also some ideas to continue to do at the college.
Great. Thank you so much, Carla and fellow OCP sister, for all of your work. I also next would like to introduce another lady who needs no introduction, who is here wearing 2 hats, one with the University of Maryland, but here today to talk about the work of the Maryland Latino Census Coalition, which we are a member of. Gloria.
Buenas tardes. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Gloria Paricio Blackwell. I'm the Director of the Office of Community Engagement at the University of Maryland. Andrew, go Terps. The good things about what we're doing in terms of, as we heard about all the undercounted population, and as you know where the University of Maryland is located, the majority of our neighboring communities have a heavily population of immigrant community. More importantly, is going to be the Latino community. So with that, we decided what a great opportunity for us of a population at the university is around 50,000 people any given day, that we can get engaged to address this issue, and starting with the college students. As you know, college students, they usually will not complete those forms because they say, well, mom and dad will take care of it, or we live in some places not here, but the reality is they are here. So we are trying to change that mindset. So 49% were counted in 2010. So Prince George's County in this case lost $363 million because of the undercounted populations. So what we have decided, the next population hard to count was the Latino community that they came to present to us, the Census, the U.S. Census Bureau representative. So we decided to say, well, what else could we do? So we have, I happen to know some great community leaders that happen to be from that community. And also I met with Danielle Jones, who also is another U.S. Census representative partnership. And we came together and put a list of great people, including Nancy Navarro, also Carla Silvestre, and so many of you that are here today, that we are coming together to address this. Why we don't have to reinvent the wheels. We have to come together to see what could we do about it. So we have worked with Identity. They're going out to be kind of rallying the community. It is about trust. Right now, trust. That community is telling us we're not going to complete this form. They're going to come to get us. The government is going to come here to get us. We have to confront that. We have to tell them there is a system in place where your information is going to be protected. But here's the other caveat of this information. You want better school. You want better transportation. You want better hospitals, police officers that are protecting you. This money will help you with this. So that is the message that we are going to take out, and that we are doing it right now. And the coalition that is composed from people from Frederick, because those communities come here too. They move around. So from Frederick, from Baltimore was heavily undercounted. So as a resident of Montgomery County, as a resident of the state of Maryland, we have to all work together in the different jurisdictions. Some of the examples that you're providing here about what events and programming, they are replicating in the other jurisdictions. So as much as we get the people that are trusted in the community, getting them in the front page of every newspaper that we can see, El Pregonero, the faith-based community like Catholic Charities, they are going out to give this information out. What I'm telling the community right now, there are the scammers out there. They are saying that we have this form and you need to give us your social security number and you have to give us your bank account. Please, that information is not what is going to be in that form. The other challenge that we have with the immigrant community is about race. As you know, we are all a mixture. I included myself. I just did the 23andMe, and I'm a rainbow. I have from all over the map. So in my case, when they ask about what race are you, I will say I'm mestiza. I'm mixed. I'm a mixed race. So I think people need to understand, not to feel afraid of completing that form. You're not just a black and white color. So we have to be coming and let them know what the questions and what kind of answers you might be thinking that the census will be able to accept too. So I think it is about for us, for this coalition, is to get all the information out and to get together. We're having a meeting in March 11 in Baltimore. Everyone comes. 20 to 50 community leaders are coming because they want to see what is working and what is not working too. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your efforts and your support. President Law at the University of Maryland is excited about, I get my boss excited about, then we can do the work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Like I said, she needs no introduction, but also she's a great example of how community advocates and community leaders who are on the ground that are not tied to government can really rally communities in a way that we as government agencies can't, because there are some things that we can and we cannot say, and as community advocates and leaders, they can really rally communities around being counted and ensuring that everyone is counted and ensuring that communities own the census count, right? It's not us telling the communities they need to respond. It's community advocates saying we need to own the census count. So thank you, Gloria, and to our partners. So really, I would like to take a moment to recognize all of our partners who are, many of them are not in this room today. We cannot do this work without you, and we cannot stress enough how important these partnerships are to our communities. I'd like to recognize some folks who are in the crowd. MCPS and planning were here earlier. I don't think, oh yes, good to see you, thank you. And also our elected officials have been all over the census. I'd like to recognize Nina, who is here from Jamie Raskin's office. And I'd also like to thank Delegate Janelle Wilkins, who is our CCC state representative, who's been a wonderful advocate for us on the state level. I'd also like to thank all of the liaisons, the OCP staff, the RSC directors, Sean, and all of the census ambassadors and CCC members for all of their work as well. So the question now is, so what's next? So the message here that we hope that you push out to your folks is that households need to be ready to look out for invitations to arrive in their households by March the 12th. Once they receive those invitations, they should respond to the census online by April the 1st. So we are having Census Awareness Weekend, perfectly timed, March 27th through the 29th. This is right after all households should have received their census invitations and right before the April 1st census date. So that weekend, that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you will see census stuff everywhere. At the faith communities, we're doing Census Sabbath weekend. All of our nonprofit partners are going to be pushing out information and all of their events that weekend. The libraries, rec community centers will have a presence there. The grocery stores and ethnic grocery stores, all of our census ambassadors will be dispatched at particularly grocery stores, ethnic grocery stores, small businesses, libraries, rec, and community centers. And we're going to have 5 regional census events and rallies. Part of our other messaging is how to get involved to folks. So if you're out in the community and there's a census partner that you come across or somebody who wants to be involved with the census, please encourage them to go to our website to sign up to be a partner and or a census ambassador. And our website is montgomerycountymd.gov/census. Flyers are on there, event calendars, outreach materials, and any toolkits are all available on our website. So again, the key message that I want everyone to walk away with, because we threw out a lot of information today, is that the 2020 census is safe and confidential, it's easy and important, and everyone in Montgomery County counts. Thank you very much for having us here.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
I'm going to be very brief because I know that the time is late, but just wanted to put in a request that we really focus on our young people. As I sit next to our council member for a day, our young people are becoming greater advocates now than they ever have been before. Their voice is incredibly strong. However, the latest Pew data came out and said that only 1 in 5, especially those who make under $30,000 and especially those who are African American, are going to participate in the census. That's your 80-20% that you're talking about right there, and it's of a population that we know continuously is always undercounted when it comes to the census. And so when it's coming to partnering with MCPS, working with Minority Scholars Program and others who are leaders in the community, who are really able to get out and make sure that their voice is heard and that they rally around. It's thinking about those innovative ways. We always go to the CASAs and the identities and the NAACP, but the reality is that they have a finite group and set of folks. We've got to start breaking those barriers and getting outside of the box. And so I just encourage you to start thinking about those kinds of things. Was a suggestion that we came up with together, so thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Ms. Vu, thank you so much, and all the partners for this briefing. Thank you, Gloria. One of the things I wanted to make sure when we did launch this, when I was council president, was that we would receive periodic updates so that we can work together. The idea is to amplify this work, and so much has been done. I'm so appreciative of everything that has been done thus far, and I hope that maybe in writing we can continue to get some updates just so that we individually as well as collectively can help and amplify the work that you're already doing. That would be super important. So just a number of just thoughts. I do believe that we already have best practices, and we already have a framework in terms of strategies to do outreach to communities that are undercounted, because that's what we do on a daily basis through the work of the Office of Community Partnerships with the regional services directors, with everything that we do. I mean, so I think that part we should have sort of like already set. So the idea is, how are we going to push that out? And Councilmember Rice's point was so important, because our young people have to be a part of this, especially when it comes to social media and spreading the word. So that, I think, is going to be super important. I was wondering, in terms of how are you distributing the funds that you've received with regards to the Office of Community Partnership liaisons? Is each liaison, do they have a budget so that they can go forth into their communities, or is that something that is happening just within your overall budget for your office?
So that's happening overall with our overall strategy. So the liaisons don't have a budget per se, but we're designating funds to go to nonprofit organizations that are working with communities. The regional service center directors are going to get funds to do these events. So it's not the liaisons that hold the budget, but it's really the community and our partners who have that budget.
Okay, so I mean, I think if there could be some way that when the liaisons are working, they have their advisory committees, and those are people that are putting on a lot of time, plus there are people that are very well known in the community. It would be nice for them to have some kind of resources, however that's managed, et cetera. That would be, I think, really useful. Also, I think it's going to be really critical for us to use our 311 system, but use it appropriately, because we did a test run this morning, and I feel like the information they're putting out or they're sharing is not necessarily accurate. So we need to do that with the Spanish language assistance. When they forward you to the website's in English, so we need to kind of take care of that ASAP. That's a really great way to automatically refer people quickly to 311. It's easy, people can remember that, that's important. Things like utility bills, I know other jurisdictions are doing that, so it'd be really cool for us to do these kind of things. Package messages that maybe we can also have access to on the council, so really cool little blurbs with infographic or a cool picture or something that we can just push that out and help amplify as well. I think might be a really great way to amplify whatever you were talking about. And then lastly, I really thought the idea of pop-ups was really cool with the tablets. So especially those undercounted areas that you were talking about. So maybe you don't go to a mega mart just to be at the mega mart giving a flyer, but maybe you're there with the tablets and you kind of host all these really cool, I don't know, with piñatas or whatever, but really cool parties where people can see that. But I just want to emphasize, when I participated in the CASA event and there was door knocking, we received immediate feedback from some of the volunteers that people were just not opening the doors. Or if they open the door, just close it right away. And so, I have to emphasize, we got to do a lot of work to just let the community know, hey, if you're wearing the Census button or whatever, please talk to these folks. But there's so much fear out there. That even with an organization like CASA wearing the T-shirts, people were already saying, no, I don't want to be a part of this, right? So anyway, just some of those things, and just really appreciative of the work. It's a lot, but I think it's necessary, and it's worth every single piece of effort, because this will determine so many things for us that we just can't let it slide easily. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Albenhouse.
Incredible presentation. This is like a dream team, looking at the group and the committee. Just a couple of thoughts. One, our faith-based community is, and I know they're part of the committee, but this is one of the ways that I think we're going to be able to counter some of the messaging, particularly in our immigrant communities, and we really need to triple, quadruple, quintuple down on that. And so to the degree to which I or anybody who's out there, I'd be willing to go out to any service anywhere to speak to congruents in Spanish about the importance of this, why it's relevant, and if we can develop a strategy from a grassroots standpoint to reach out to those folks, I think would be really helpful. So Reverend Caseman, I will follow up with you on that thought. And then I can't underscore enough the social media strategy. There needs to be a point person for that. I was blown away during my campaign this last year about how effective and inexpensive Facebook ads and some of the social media strategies that you can use that can hyper-target residents and individuals. And I was really surprised by how many people were on social media that I wasn't expecting to be. So whoever the point person is there on that, there needs to be somebody who's designated. And then finally, on the fun aspect of this, I've been kicking around this. I've been kicking around this idea of like an ice bucket challenge of some sort. You know, some social media. I don't know what it looks like. I was thinking about biting a jalapeno or something. But something that is fun and engaging, that gets people just talking about this in a fun and creative way to eliminate some of the stigmas. So I'm going to work on that a little bit more. But we should all be thinking about stuff like this right now. A dance-off. Bam. That would be huge. So those are a lot of things that we need to start thinking about. But I appreciate all the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Giwando.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to thank everyone for the presentation and all your work, both at the dais and behind. I know, and many others that aren't here. Big shout out to our libraries, as Lead for Libraries. I say all the time, preaching the gospel of all the great work that we do and how we're on the front lines. And so really excited to hear about the tablets. Some of these things I didn't even know you were doing. So and they're ongoing. I'm sure you'll come up with other ways to make sure people are counted. And I too want to echo my colleagues that we need to be more personally engaged. You know, I'm in the middle of my library tour. We need to, Anita, from here on out, let's make this a part at the up front tonight. We have one tonight. We have one tonight at Twinbrook. So I'm going to talk about the census, and if there can be, I know we're going to shoot videos, but if you can fold us all into our outreach, you know, with talking points and materials. We need to just, everywhere we go, this is, you know, game time right now, and so we look forward to working with you to make that more robust, because we're talking to a lot of people a lot of the time, and so glad this briefing is very timely. So thank you to our census partners nationally and to everyone and all the other agencies. Thank you.
And Councilmember Rice.
Just very quickly, I just heard TikTok video.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
I heard it from.
So who wants to do that in the hot chip challenge first? Can we get that on record? Okay, all right.
We can do it all. First off, thank you very, very much. We do appreciate the presentation. We know that there's a lot of work that you have done, and there's a lot of work that you will be doing, and we want to be your partner as well to coordinate everything. We're going to close out this part of our meeting.